So this game, Yes and, is a wonderful, simple, direct way to get people to tap into the flow of their own imagination, to think creatively in the moment, thinking on your feet. And there's a third thing. It encourages people to build on each other's ideas. So people really have to listen to each other if they're going to take the story to the next level. So here's how this game goes. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to get into groups of 3, and I'm going to ask you to begin a story, okay? And this is an opportunity to let your imagination run wild. So this is making up the most crazy, fantasy type story you can imagine, okay? So you have just infinite space to play with your imagination. So a person will begin the story and they will finish their thought. And the next person in the group says, yes, and. So you always begin what you're going to say next with those 2 words, yes, and you build on what they're going to say, okay? Or what they've said. So also, if they begin using the pronoun I, you stay in that pronoun. So you keep the story in the same person as the story goes around the group, okay? And the other thing, we want you to avoid what I call cliffhangers. So here's a cliffhanger. So you might say something like, so I was walking down the dark street and I turned the corner and I saw, you don't leave it for the other person to finish. You finish your thought and they'll begin with a new thought, okay? So I'm going to ask Sylvia if she'll come back up here and demonstrate this with me. And let's see. So I finished dinner the other night and I decided I would take a walk in the park. It's the park I always go to. And so I was walking in the park and all of a sudden I heard music. And I found myself in this field, and there were all of these people on these swings, swinging on trees, and everyone had an instrument. Some had like little ukuleles, some had little brass instruments, and playing this wild music.
Yes, and when I looked around in the park, I saw a gazebo full of musical instruments, and everybody was invited to actually go in, pick up an instrument, and start jamming with the people on the swings.
Yes, and so I went and picked up an instrument, and I got a tuba. I've always wanted to play the tuba. And before I knew it, we decided to form a marching band, and we started to march through the streets, and people were throwing open their windows, and everybody was screaming and cheering us.
Yes, and before I knew it, I was approaching Buckingham Palace. And the Queen and the Prince William and Harry, of course, you know, was running out to join the marching band. And before we knew it, yeah.
You get the idea, okay? So we have found really practical uses for this game when we're working with groups that might have a very serious task to do, but they're not really listening to each other. And they're not really thinking too much outside the box. So this encourages people to, again, think outside the box, really bring in their imagination, to be more present and in the moment, and to build on each other's ideas.